everyone, welcome to week 6 of Brad Carroll's Game Day. I'm Brad Carroll, executive sports editor of the Bristol Press and New Britain Herald. He's Anthony Della, someone who's talked a whole lot about his own mojo on this show. Unfortunately, that so-called mojo came to a screeching halt last week.
Yeah, my mojo disappeared a little bit on me, but I'm going to do what anyone would naturally do when things go wrong. I'm going to blame the teams for not living up to my predictions. What's wrong with them?
I don't know. While Anthony went 2-5 against the spread last week, I didn't have the same trouble. I went 5-2 against the spread and 6-1 straight up. For the season, I'm 23-11-1 with the points and 32-3 straight up. It's been a great start to the season.
Yeah, great start to the season. Brad's great. Brad predicts every game correctly. Enough of that. Let's move on. Come on.
All right, joining me with a 5-2 record against the spread is the third member of our team, Craig Carroll. Craig is having a tremendous season as well with a 21-13-1 record against the points. He will give us his thoughts on the week at some point in the show.
I'm not going to give him any accolades just because I'm going to be bitter.
Now, even with a 5-2 week, there are some moments that had me screaming at the television. The biggest was the end of the LSU-Tennessee game. Driving for the winning score with just under 30 seconds to play, LSU, for the second year in a row, had a massive meltdown on the field. Quarterback Jordan Jefferson had no idea what to do in the final seconds. Coach Les Miles had no idea what to do. It was a joke. LSU finally snapped the ball with 4 seconds left, but Jefferson wasn't ready and had a fall on the ball, giving Tennessee the win. Unfortunately, there was a penalty on the Vols, and the Tigers got another chance to win the game. And they did. But that doesn't change the fact that this was an embarrassment that should cost Les Miles his job.
Yeah, it was an embarrassment, but it shouldn't cost him his job. You judge by wins and losses, he won the game. But speaking of embarrassments, Tennessee and all that confusion screwed up too. They had too many players on the field, so they should be just as embarrassed as LSU.
Yeah, I agree. On the flip side of the spectrum was Oregon. I could not be more impressed with the Ducks after their victory over Stanford last week. I could see Oregon not only playing in the BCS title game this year, but winning it.
I agree with you. Quack, quack. Go Ducks.
There you go. There is another huge slate of games on tap this week, so let's kick things off right now. 7 games, 7 picks. You ready to regain your mojo?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, number 1 Alabama travels to number 19 South Carolina as 7-point favorites Saturday afternoon. Alabama destroyed Florida last week, but South Carolina should put up a better fight at home. Still, the Gamecocks are terrible against the run, which plays right into Alabama's hands with Mark Ingram and Trent Richardson in the backfield.
You said exactly what I was going to say. With Alabama's running attack, they should have no problem. South Carolina had an extra week to prepare, but it's not going to matter. Alabama came off a win against Arkansas. They just rolled Florida. They're going to continue to roll 31-17.
Yeah, Mark Ingram rushed for almost 250 yards last year against South Carolina, and although it would be very difficult to match that total, he could get close. Alabama right now is the best team in the nation, and South Carolina is nowhere near its level. Alabama 31, South Carolina 17. Next up is a Big Ten matchup featuring Indiana traveling to number 2 Ohio State as 21.5-point underdogs. Indiana put up 35 points against Michigan last week, but the Wolverines' defense is terrible, so don't expect a repeat for the Hoosiers. The Buckeyes haven't done anything special this year, but quarterback Terrell Pryor is a special player.
Yeah, he is a special player. Indiana had no answer for Denard Robinson. They'll have no answer for Terrell Pryor. Ohio State will roll in this game. They will not win by as many as they're favored, but they'll win easily, 40-20.
Ohio State is going to win the game, but the only question is whether or not the Buckeyes can win by more than 3 touchdowns. Pryor isn't fully healthy, and the Buckeyes beat Illinois last week by just 11 points. So I'm thinking Indiana can keep this game close enough. Ohio State 37, Indiana 17. Oregon State travels to number 9 Arizona as 7.5-point underdogs Saturday night. Arizona won its biggest game of the year at home against then number 9 Iowa, but survived 2 weeks ago with a 1-point win over Cal. Oregon State has had a strange season, losing to both Boise State and TCU, but they are 2-2 on the year.
They are 2-2, but I want to get back to the Wildcats for a minute. I'm a believer in this team after they beat Iowa, and even though they struggled against Cal, they found a way to win that game ugly. They have a great defense, which I like. And, you know, Oregon State, again, they're good, but I think this game's going to be like TCU and Boise State. They play well, but not well enough to win. Arizona 17-13.
Arizona, coming off a bye week, has a tremendous defense, and given 2 weeks to prepare for Oregon State is not a good thing for the Beavers. Put those factors together with an Oregon State offense that has been up and down this season, and you get an Arizona victory at home. Arizona 35, Oregon State 24. Next up on the docket.
Apparently next up on the docket is Mr. Craig Carroll.
There you go. Craig Carroll's statement for us to read right now. Well, well, well. For all you listeners that trusted me and avoided Anthony's picks were rewarded as he lost his so-called mojo and finished the week 2-5 against the spread.
I lost it, but I'm going to get it back. That's simple.
I can't rag on Brad as he finished the week with the same 5-2 record as I did. Now, on to my picks. Alabama giving 7. Ohio State giving 21.5. Oregon State getting 7.5. Florida giving 7. Auburn giving 6.5. Michigan giving 4.5. And for my game of the week, longtime rivals collide in South Beach as number 23 Florida State visits number 13 Miami in what could be a preview of the ACC championship game. The game, from that point, is more important for the Canes, as Florida State has easier competition to play in the Atlantic than Miami does in the Coastal. If Ja'Cory Harris plays smart and curtails his interceptions, Miami, minus 6.5, should roll 35-21.
I don't agree with that. He kind of said it with Ja'Cory Harris. He threw a lot of interceptions last year. He's already thrown 8 this year, 4 in their biggest game against Ohio State. And yeah, he's capable of making the big play, but he's also capable of making the big mistake. Christian Ponder, on the other hand, with Florida State at quarterback, he seems to finally have matured into the player everyone thought he could be, and I think that's going to be the difference in the game. I like Florida State in this game, 24-20.
That's a big pick. 9 straight meetings between the two rivals have been decided by fewer than 10 points, and with both teams ranked for the first time in 4 years, that streak should continue tonight, especially given the defensive prowess of each team. Miami turns a tie game in the fourth quarter into a touchdown victory late. Miami 27, Florida State 20. The previously mentioned LSU Tigers, ranked number 12 in the nation, take on number 14 Florida in prime time. LSU is a 7-point underdog in the Swamp. The Tigers have no offense to speak of and shouldn't be ranked in the top 20, let alone number 12. Florida was given a dose of reality last week in a big loss to Alabama, but playing at home could get the Gators back on track quickly.
Yeah, it could get the Gators back on track. Another thing that could get them back on track is playing LSU. LSU has winning ugly down, and Florida looked downright ugly against Alabama, but Alabama will do that to you. Going home to the Swamp, I don't think LSU has a chance in this game. Like I said, their ranking is not indicative of how good they are. Florida 27-10, wins easy.
We all know what I think of LSU and Coach Les Miles. I'm not too keen on Florida this season either, but when it comes to these two teams matching up, I'm going with the Gators. Florida wins it 28-17. Next up is number 8 Auburn, traveling to Kentucky as 6.5-point favorites. Auburn has dominated the all-time series, although Kentucky won the game last year 21-14. Still, quarterback Cam Newton wasn't on the team a year ago, and he is everything for the Tigers' offense right now.
Yeah, the Tigers have been great, but they've played a lot of close games, excluding their 2 non-conference cupcakes. All their games have been decided, right down to the last minute, including that overtime win against Clemson. I don't think that'll happen this week because Kentucky the last 2 weeks has allowed over 40 points. I think Auburn against that Kentucky defense is not going to have too much of a challenge. They'll win this game 32-17.
Auburn has won 7 straight meetings between the two teams in Kentucky, with Cam Newton leading the offense and the Auburn defense doing their part as well. The Tigers roll over the Wildcats once again. Auburn 33, Kentucky 21. Finally, we have a big-time Big Ten rivalry game on tap as number 17 Michigan State visits the Big House to take on number 18 Michigan as 4.5-point underdogs. Michigan can score at will on offense as quarterback Denard Robinson can easily pass for 300 yards and run for another 200 in the same game. This Michigan defense, on the other hand, can't stop anybody. Indiana scored 35 points against the much-maligned Wolverines defense last week. Michigan State, as we all remember, beat Notre Dame on a fake field goal in overtime. After that game, MSU coach Mark D'Antonio suffered a mild heart attack, but he is expected to coach from the press box today. We should see a ton of offense.
We should see a ton of offense, and everyone talks about Denard Robinson, and rightfully so. He's great. But on the other side, Kirk Cousins at quarterback for Michigan State has his team averaging over 35 points a game. And here comes Michigan, dead last, 120th out of 120 teams in pass defense. That does not bode well. Yeah, Michigan will score, but they won't score enough to beat Michigan State because they won't be able to stop them. Michigan State, 42-35.
Yeah, Michigan will go as far in this game and in this season as quarterback Denard Robinson takes them. If he plays like he has so far this season, Michigan will win the game. If he struggles at all or suffers another injury, the Spartans take home the victory. But, in the end, I don't see the Michigan offense and Robinson slowing down one bit. It's going to be a high-scoring affair as Michigan is terrible on defense, but the Wolverines have enough to win the game. Michigan 42, Michigan State 35. With that, we wrap up another edition of Brad Carroll's Game Day. Be sure to check out the print version every Saturday on the pages of the Bristol Press and New Britain Herald, on my blog at BrettCarrollGameDay.blogspot.com. And don't forget College Game Day Rewind, exclusively on my blog. For Anthony, I'm Brad. We'll see you next week.